everyone. Welcome back to Twin Talks. This week, we were supposed to be doing This Side of Paradise, but
that didn't happen because I didn't know what book I owned. I just didn't. I pulled it off my shelf and I was like, yeah, This Side of Paradise. And it was The Beautiful and the Damned. So that's what we read.
which is actually Fitzgerald's second novel, so it's still one of his very early works, so we're not killing ourselves or going too far off. But it was and it worked out in my favor because I definitely got a free version of this off Google Books. So if any of you want to read it, Google Books giving you a free book.
I bought it at the Strand in New York City 3 years ago now. Which is why I didn't know which one it was because I hadn't looked at it in 3 years.
Which is fair.
Yeah. I also think it's the one that they mention in Gossip Girl, which is why I bought it. To be honest.
Is it the one they mentioned in Gossip Girl?
Yeah. It's the one where Blake Lively's character, if you don't watch Gossip Girl, there's something wrong with you. But she ends up it's her favorite book and she ends up working on a movie set for it or a TV show set or something. And she's, Blake Lively and beautiful and
And married to Ryan Reynolds.
It's just unfair, but hey.
Okay, so Twin, what's this book about?
It's okay, honestly, I feel like in the jazz age or whatever, there was a theme with authors. It's essentially fan fiction on Fitzgerald's life with his wife Zelda. It's loosely based on his experience.
I don't know if I would equate him to Anthony, because Fitzgerald definitely has more drive and, actual willingness to do shit for money than Anthony seems to.
Honestly, I actually don't think that's true. I think F. Scott did bare minimum. I mean, now we herald icon, but at the time he was just a lazy hipster trying to get shit done.
But yeah, then I equate him more to Anthony's friend. Finish the summary and then we'll get into this.
Oh, okay. So it's essentially about a guy named Anthony Patch and his wife. I keep wanting to say Zelda. Her name is Glenda or Gilda or something.
It is Gloria.
Oh, that was close. And it's sort of about the tumultuous relationship they have with each other. And I read a thing that said the book is actually about craft and doing something that you're meant to be doing. I don't know if that's exactly true. Hold on, let me try and find it.
I could see the argument for that. But I don't, with the focus mainly being on Gloria and Anthony, I don't know if I would definitely say that that's what it is. Because
so I'm looking. Hold on.
While you're looking, I will fill in the silence. So my biggest issue with this book is not that Anthony and Gloria are just two unlikable characters, or even together they're unlikable, because they have moments where I'm just oh, that's actually kind of cute. I think about when they first moved in together and then they were talking about the laundry and they were getting their little tiff about that. It was an actual couple moment and it was really sweet and kind of funny. But generally they're kind of awful together, but worse apart at the same time.
So I went through a bit of a Fitzgerald phase in late high school. In AP Language and Composition, we read The Great Gatsby, and I had a really excellent teacher who really taught it well. Miss Hollingsworth, if you ever listen to this, I'm sorry that I've embarrassed you. But also just you're amazing and I love you. You're the best. But she was amazing, and she really was very thought-provoking. So everyone who had her class and she taught The Great Gatsby, guest appearance by the Weeble, was just obsessed with the Roaring Twenties and the Flappers and F. Scott Fitzgerald's relationship with his wife Zelda. And so this book falls in between This Side of Paradise and The Great Gatsby, and they all are kind of cut from the same cloth. Not that I've read This Side of Paradise, because obviously I haven't.
Neither have I.
But comparatively, this one and what I assume This Side of Paradise is about and The Great Gatsby are all sort of similar, and they play off each other really well. So F. Scott Fitzgerald really made a name for himself doing what he did.
He definitely has a theme of taking some of the more interesting side of couples in this time period, where it's not all lovey-dovey. The girls are not all super innocent or head over heels for the dude all the time. Because, like, I'm not even... Sometimes I wonder if Gloria really does like Anthony, or does she like the idea of Anthony?
I think she loves him. She's just very, very, very self-centered.
Yeah.
She cares about herself. And I think part of that comes with the idea that she needs to have someone.
Uh-huh.
And Anthony kind of fits the bill.
I can see that.
Also, he loves her. Who doesn't want that?
True. That is a big problem we face in today's society.
That was not supposed to be self-deprecating, but it came out that way.
It happens. That's what the show's about. It's books and life. We're good. Everything's fine.
Speaking of books and life, I'm pretty sure F. Scott Fitzgerald just does that.
He does.
So everyone's always like, wow, realistic, like, depictions of relationships. And I'm like, bruh, he's just talking about Zelda. That's all he cares about. Zelda this, Zelda that. Everyone was really annoyed with how much he was into her back in the day. All he ever wrote about was Zelda. In fact, he dedicated The Great Gatsby to her, right? And then he was very vocal about how, like, she was his muse. The only reason he wrote anything was for her, to impress her and to get her to love him, because he loved her. And so that's often a theme in his books too, is a woman that needs to be wooed, I would say.
And the devotion of a man to a single woman. I think that's also a very common theme in his books. I don't know if it's the same in his short stories. I've read a couple, but I haven't read a lot.
Same. I've read a couple, and I couldn't tell you which ones I've read.
Fun fact, in my next semester, most likely I'll be teaching a Fitzgerald short story. Yeah. That'll be something fun. And I can talk about all my knowledge I have on Fitzgerald and his obsession with his wife Zelda, which I think's adorable, but also I'm not sure it was a good idea dedicating The Great Gatsby to her, because it's kind of fucked up.
Well, so she was really shitty to him. Like, I was gonna say canonically, like in canon, but like this is real life. So like historically, I guess she was really shitty to him, and he just was like, yeah, I'm gonna do everything it is to get her. He was the Gatsby, I would say, and she was the Daisy.
See, that would be my ultimate fuck you book, and I leave her. Like, instead he kills himself.
This opening, there's a name for that, like, thing. It's like, I want to say lithograph, but that's wrong. It's like a little poem, like at the beginning of a chapter, at the beginning of a book.
I know what you're talking about. I have no idea what it's called.
Right? English majors. So there's a little thing, and it's a little poem. It's like, I can honestly recite some of it, but I don't know. So it's like about, I think it's like, my high-hatted lover, throw your whatever. And then it's like, it quotes a poet, and that's not real. Like, F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote that himself. Mm-hmm. And it's basically like the entire novel summed up in like 5 seconds. It's about a girl who doesn't care what you do, just wants you to jump when she says to jump. And we're talking a lot about Gatsby, which is not the book we read, but
no,
but you can't, very similar.
You can't talk about Fitzgerald and not talk about Gatsby, because this book does tie into it, even though it predates Gatsby.
Yeah, they not by much, I don't think.
3 years. Because This Side of Paradise came out in 1920, and then The Great Gatsby came out in 1925, and this book came out in 1922.
22, yeah.
So
it was also serialized briefly. I hate that. I think if I lived in a time where all these great American novels were serialized, I'd kill myself. It's like TV before there was TV, which I guess is the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would die.
I don't think I would.
If I was reading this book and had to wait, I'd be angry.
I mean, it's kind of like with TV shows. Like, before, I would enjoy it. I watch TV shows still as they come out, as annoying as it is sometimes. But
it's just a way to make money.
Well, it's all they had to make money.
It's true.
I'd be more pissed if this never came out.
It's true. You're right.
Okay, so The Beautiful and the Damned. Yes. These characters are interesting takes. And back to my argument I said before about how Anthony, I wouldn't equate Fitzgerald to Anthony because Anthony doesn't seem to want anything. He likes the idea of having something, but he doesn't have the drive or really the want to work for it. Unlike his friend,
Richard Dick Caramel.
Yes, Richard Dick Caramel. He is another aspiring author, much like Anthony, though he wants to write more like sci-fi fantasy novels. It wasn't quite clear what he wanted to write.
I didn't.
The book he publishes is called The Demon Lovers. And
And
it's
that
like,
in itself is a metaphor for so much.
yeah. And it's like super popular when it comes out, and it is popular for quite a long time. But the difference between Richard and Anthony is that Richard's constantly being, like, is told to have been writing every single day for a set amount of period of times and, like, always thinking about his book. Versus Anthony says he's thinking about his book and says he's sitting down to write it, but we don't really see it until, like, way later in the novel, and then it sounds like he gets distracted easily and just kind of like, oh, whatever, it'll get done when it gets done and they'll be great. And, like, Richard, who's been practicing his craft and therefore is rewarded by it.
Anthony's too busy chasing skirts.
And waiting for his grandfather to die so he can inherit his large fortune.
And drinking the booze.
So much of the booze.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk momentarily about the character Dorothy Raycroft.
Oh.
So, I'm a nerd.
Continue.
I have a lot of opinions on this. So she's the woman that Anthony secretly, like, has an affair with while he's training for the army. The Wikipedia article says she's a lost soul looking for someone to share her life with. She falls in love with Anthony despite learning that he's married, causes problems with Gloria and Anthony, and leads to a decline in Anthony's mental health. So, because I'm a nerd, I know a lot about Fitzgerald's life, which I've already told you guys. But as Twin knows, who's my favorite poet?
Dorothy Parker.
Dorothy Parker, bitch. And Dorothy Parker was friends, you can't see the air quotes there, but they exist, with F. Scott Fitzgerald and the love of his life, Zelda. And everyone heralds Zelda as this, like, ideal flapper girl, but your girl Dorothy Parker was that personified. More so than Zelda, if you ask me, which no one did, but it's okay. And she supposedly had several affairs with F. Scott Fitzgerald and was estranged because she tried to come between him and Zelda. And so they stopped being friends. And it was a big blow to the literary community of New York because, like, they were these huge icons. But typical, everyone knows F. Scott Fitzgerald, but not everyone knows Dorothy Parker, right?
Well, Dorothy Parker's more of a poet, so.
Dorothy Parker is an icon, and if you don't read Dorothy Parker, who are you? That
I'm
is
just
to the
saying.
public, not you. I know you.
I appreciate Dorothy Parker from what you've showed me, but the reason why I think she's not as well known is because Fitzgerald is a novelist, and we tend to focus more on novelists in our studies than we do poets. That's not saying that poets aren't, like, as
Also
skilled.
men.
Also men.
I threw down that card.
Yeah, no, for sure, agreed.
So Dorothy Parker, Queen of My Heart, is also represented in the character Dorothy Raycroft. At me. We'll be here for it.
No, seriously, at her on our Twitter.
Yeah. What's my Twitter?
Our Twitter is at TwinTalksYT.
Yeah, but I have one.
I have no idea what your Twitter is. You never use
I
it.
I don't know on it. I think I have 3 followers on Twitter.
I think I'm definitely one of them.
The club we were president of. And
Jack.
And Jack, yeah. So follow me on Twitter at a name that I don't know. So follow us on Twin Talks for sure.
And then
all
at
of your
her.
listeners. And then at me about Dorothy Parker. Because I have thoughts and opinions. Dorothy Parker is the love of my life. I know, like, everything about her. And I once wrote angsty poetry of hers on the inside wall of my closet in my old house.
No, you didn't.
I did. My childhood bedroom. Because I'm that child. So whoever lives there now hopefully will find my angsty Dorothy Parker poetry and the main lyrics and some other poetry, actually, I think, because I'm that person. I used to hang out in my closet, which is not a metaphor for anything. It's just, it was spacious in there. And I could close the door and no one could hear me when I was talking on the phone with boys I shouldn't have been on the phone with. So I used to hang out in my closet a lot because there was room. I sometimes slept in there. There was room for me. And Weeble liked it in there. Weeble is my cat, if you don't know that. I'm currently sleeping on my sister's couch where my sister is long-term cat sitting for me. And Weeble and I spooned last night. It was precious. Weeble and I spoon all the time, or used to when I lived with her. Anyway, Dorothy Parker.
Yes, Dorothy Parker.
Love her.
Also, possibly Dorothy Raycroft in this novel, which makes sense because I definitely think if Zelda is as bad as you tell. I've never actually read anything about her. I've read Gatsby and I've read a little bit about his life, but not like an extensive amount. Because I don't care about the historical context most of the time unless I'm studying it.
I'm pretty sure that's just my claim to fame. Historical context, historicism. I'm here for that.
Versus I'm for character interpretation and the story and plot and all that. But I digress. If if Zelda is like that, then she's definitely represented in this Gloria, which is a very selfish character who Fitzgerald is obsessed with. And she's like obsessed with him to a point, but definitely not to the same level he is, where she says she loves him, but then she's also missing the attention she used to get from all these other gentlemen, particularly Mr. Blokeman.
Yeah, Blokeman, I think.
Where he used to be a suitor, and he's like still popping up in his life, and then there's theories that they're having an affair, which probably, if you know Gloria from this novel.
I was gonna say he's the Tom in Gatsby, except Tom is definitely Daisy's husband.
Yep. Tom's definitely the husband. So back to Anthony and our little loves, Gloria. They're like I said, they're an interesting couple. They're kind of like the toxic relationship that work better than apart, but still not great.
So I think the like concept of love has changed since like post World War era. So like right at the beginning is before the Great War.
Mm-hmm.
It's before World War I. And there was this like mad dash to get married, right? And people were like, we have to get married before I get shipped off to die in this war. And many, many, many people did die in the war, right? So love was very rushed. And love was very much a side effect of, or like it was very much romanticized. Like, wow, we're dating for a month. I love you. Let's get married. Boom, off to war. I died. But good thing we fucked before I left, so we have a bunch of kids now. Because that happened. Well, that was more in World War II. But so like you can sort of sense that like urgency in this book, in the early chapters, where they know he very well could get shipped off to war, which he does. He doesn't die, obviously. And so they're like, I love you. We need to do this now. We need to be married. We need to be in a relationship. And they don't actually form a like healthy bond because there is no healthy bond in pre-war America. And that makes sense. I was very cynical.
It makes sense. I'm like, I don't know if I completely agree with it. I agree, like, agree that they're rushed, but that there's no sense of that bond anywhere in the thing. Because I see it somewhat happen in the other characters where their relationships are, like, a little more gradual. I think what makes them feel rushed is that Anthony has this, like, idea of not only impressing his grandfather to secure his place in the inheritance, but also he, like, this is his ideal. Like, she's the one I want. She's beautiful. She's better than all the girls I've been with before. She doesn't want me, but she's going to want me, kind of thing.
So there's a TV show on a TV channel that I don't know that I watched on the TV internet. So it might have been on, like, Hulu or Amazon or something. And it's a show called, like, Zelda or something.
Yeah. It's on Amazon.
Yeah, Z, The Beginning of Everything, which is based off a book, which I also did not read, but I had several friends who read. And so it sort of shows their relationship. It's like historical, sort of as historical as something can be, if it's based on someone's like journals, personal journals. Mm-hmm. They're always a little skewed, you know. Anyway, so it's very much about Zelda's relationship with F. Scott Fitzgerald. I don't know what his actual name is. I don't know what the F stands for.
How do I?
Remember. I think it's like Frank or something. It's something really normal.
It's Francis.
There we go. Told you. Pretty
Francis
normal.
Scott Key Fitzgerald.
Yeah, really
What a
like
name.
average.
On the signature's cute.
Well, I want to see.
We're looking on Wikipedia for all your English major needs.
Yeah, are you kidding me? I live on Wikipedia.
Like, okay, don't use all your sources from Wikipedia, but if you're trying to get a general sense of ideas, just fucking go.
And what you can do is you go on Wikipedia, read the article, and then go to their sources. And that's where you find where they found the information. I mean, some of them are equally as sketchy as Wikipedia, but sometimes you get like genuine, like good sites. I do that a lot.
I usually do it for like my general, like, what the hell is this about? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Go on.
So if, like before I'm gonna write a paper, I'll read the Wikipedia article on something.
But he died in Hollywood at age 44.
He had a very interesting life, and a very like idealized version of what it means to be an American author in the jazz age. Also, Dorothy Parker died here too.
Really?
California. She taught at Cal State LA. Like, I would have died to have taken a class with Dorothy Parker. Christopher Isherwood taught at Cal State LA too.
Like, I don't know that one.
Who knew? I've been to Cal State LA. It's not nice. Like, just whatever.
Oh god, we just insulted everyone who goes there.
Yeah, if you go to Cal State LA, I'm real sorry. But like, just imagine Dorothy Parker. I literally would have like frothed at the mouth and then probably cried. She's just an icon. An icon. Oh, dead. Anyway, what was I even saying? Oh, Zelda. So it like comes with this like the show depicts their relationship in a really interesting way and factual as to like what we know. And so he like shows up to wherever Zelda lives. She has a southern accent. It's Georgia, I think. Don't quote me. I don't actually know. And then he like shows up and is like, "Hey, you're beautiful and I want to talk to you." And she's like, "Hey, are you rich?" And he said, "No." And she's like, "I don't want to talk to you." He was like, "But I can be rich. I will be rich. Just, take a chance on me, And she's like, maybe. And then he like turns out to be real charming and cute. And she's like, okay. But she has her own agenda, right? She really just wants to get out of her family home. Her dad's really controlling, and she's like, I'm going to be an actress. Sound familiar?
AKA Gloria.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to be an actress, and beautiful men like me. And then, yeah. So she enters into this really kind of toxic relationship with F. Scott Fitzgerald, who later develops alcoholism. He becomes an alcoholic, and he like writes these really esoteric novels about how the dream is dead, and like literature as a whole is like whatever. And he's really cool. I think like I was having this thought this morning as I was refreshing my memory by reading a Wikipedia article about this book. And I was like, why are people like so not obsessed with F. Scott Fitzgerald anymore? Like, the dude's a baller. Like, I think he's like ultimate hipster dream.
He is. He's definitely a hipster and kind of responsible for a large wave in literature. Especially with the types of novel he writes. It's just, I feel his tone in other novels, even to this day. And I think that's pretty damn cool. And that's why he's one of my favorite authors. Even though I didn't particularly care for this book. And I think it's like partially because I didn't care for Anthony and Gloria. But the other half was just, it was weirdly written. Like, it goes into like play style for like a hot second, then switches back to like normal novel format. I'm just like, wait, what's going on? I was like, why are you doing this?
Power move. Like, he knew he was the shit. And he was like, wow. What a cool guy. I would have died to have met him.
He definitely would have been cool. You know what? I didn't say I want to meet him. I don't want to meet anyone in the 20s. That seems shitty.
Dorothy Parker. I've written, I think, 3 or 4 papers on Dorothy Parker, and one of them in my computer is titled, in all caps, Dorothy Parker, my queen.
Is Dorothy Parker white?
I have emailed it to a professor named that.
Is Dorothy Parker white?
Yes, Dorothy Parker.
And I still do not want to meet Dorothy Parker.
When she died, she donated all of her money to the NAACP.
I still don't want to meet Dorothy Parker.
I think you would like Dorothy Parker.
White people do shit like thinking they're good, but I don't want to meet any white person in the 1920s. Unless maybe they're from California. Maybe.
I don't know where Dorothy Parker's from. I used to. Also, Dorothy Parker is easily the only reason I passed senior exam. I
Who did you equate to Dorothy Parker in our senior exam?
Langston Hughes. And I quoted Dorothy Parker from memory because I'm a freaking nerd.
Honestly, could not tell you what I
talked
wrote.
about senior exam on the thing before. So at Laverne, where we went to do our undergrad, where no one knows about, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, it's a nice school.
Not for what we do.
No, not at all for an English major.
But we liked it there. Anyway, we're like going to be successful and amazing, so I guess it's going to work out. But we don't write a thesis as seniors. We had to take a really, really, really ridiculous test.
Yeah, super ridiculous.
6 hours, 6 essays, with 3 different categories: poetry, American novel, and
A play.
I guess not American novel, but
It's just a novel and a play.
And Shakespeare. The play was Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And then you write 2 essays on each, and you get the stuff. You get the assignments, like what books you have to read at the beginning of the semester.
Sometimes even before the semester.
Yeah, we got ours in the summer. But you can't take them into the test with you.
Which is stupid.
So you just have to know them.
Which isn't stupid. But
Well,
not being able to, okay, so they encourage you to quote, to like come in with quotes prepared.
Yep.
But you can't bring the novel or the play. The poems are given to you.
Yeah, they give you the...
But you can't bring in the novel or the thing. I don't know why. Because, like, at no point in your career are you going to be like, oh, I need to write this academic essay on this thing. Let me not be able to touch the book as I go for sources to make this essay great. This is a great show of my skills.
Mm-hmm. It's a huge source of anxiety for all, like, underclassmen coming into the program.
Even though no one's failed in years, mind you.
Yeah, no one's ever failed. And you can fail pieces of it. You can't fail the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's impossible. But everyone, thinks that they could be the first, So that was me.
It was a very stressful period, but we did fine. I think what killed me is probably the last essay in the novel where it was talking about the supermarket and I just completely blanked.
So we had to read White Noise by Don DeLeo. Easily the worst book in the world. Don't read it. But there's it's like a prominent, not theme, but like motif in the book is the grocery store. And it's like a metaphor for consumerism and capitalism as we live in society. It's a social commentary. That's just what you need to know. And so going into the questions, one of the girls who took it with us, I think it was Jessica, was like, remember the grocery store, guys? And sure enough, it was the first question. And everyone was dying. And our the proctor, the teacher who was watching us, had no idea why everyone was laughing. And he was like, as long as you're not laughing at me, I'm good. Bye. And he like peaced out. But it was really funny.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. None of the teachers like always read the books. Like they assign them, but they sometimes never read them. Like especially the proctor.
Yeah, our proctor was our Shakespeare professor, who everyone loves dearly or hates, but most people love. There's no in between. You either love or hate him.
Yeah,
I loved him. And he hadn't read the poems. He hadn't read the novel, and he didn't remember the questions he wrote for the Shakespeare portion. So he's like, I can't actually help you with any of it, even if I wanted to, because I don't know. He's like, but like, good luck, have fun.
Yeah, he's like, I wrote the questions like last year during like this play I took the class to see, so I don't know. So, haha, bye. Versus Lori was mean. Lori's the one who chose the novel. So, and we were complaining to her. I'm like, who chose it? She's like, ha ha ha, I did. I'm like, I hate you.
And she's like, there's a lot of interpretation to it. You can write a lot of things. And I was like, Lori, no one finished the book. It wasn't a good book. Everyone was suffering.
Yeah, no, everyone was suffering. I'm trying to think if I finished, and I don't think I did. I think I quote-unquote finished.
I did not finish it.
I think I skimmed it. Like, at a certain point, I'm like, fuck this, I don't care.
The first 100 pages are literally useless to any plot of the novel.
The entire book is useless to the plot to the novel.
There is no plot. Anyway, Lori also likes to write really, really long-winded essay questions.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of hilarious, but also just terrible. Because
anyway.
You're like, I didn't read this book. I don't know the answer.
But anyway, somehow we have to get back to Fitzgerald from this.
Oh, so Dorothy Parker saved my life because we had to read the Madame poems by Langston Hughes, which are great, and you should read them. Any Langston Hughes poems are great, actually. Langston Hughes is an icon. But Dorothy Parker, she had this one poem called Poem in the American Manner, which I can recite, which I'm not going to recite, because it's in like a dialectic kind of style, and it could be considered insulting to someone in the world, and I'm just not going to do it. But it's a very, very, very good poem. Social commentary. Dorothy Parker is great at that. But the Madame poems are also written in a dialect because Langston Hughes was good at that. And I knew this in my head. And we got the question about like Langston Hughes, and you're encouraged to compare things on senior exam. And one of them was like compare to a different piece, and I was like, "Beach Dorothy Parker," and I like wrote the whole thing and like quoted the poem because I knew it. And I'm 90% sure that I got like top marks on the poetry section.
I think I did good on the poetry section. I believe I compared it to Equiano, and I can't remember her name. I can't at all. You know, I bet you if I put up my notes, I could find it. Oh well, it's basically a poet from. It's a famous Black poet where she.
County Cullen?
Huh?
County Cullen?
No, I don't think. Basically, It was where she's like just remarking on colonization, how white people think they're so great, and like how they needed a god.
I know what you're talking about because we read it in class.
We did read it in class, and I read it in my African American literature class with the dean of our college, which was by far the fucking hardest class I had to take ever. But it was good. I learned a lot.
Hardest class I had to take was math in real life. Yeah.
Okay.
Not even
But Fitzgerald and The Beautiful and the Damned. I think we've beaten this to death. There's not much to the novel. To be fair, it's only, 200 something pages? I mean, my version was like 400 something pages.
Mine's like this big. It's in my bag if you want me to get it. Yeah, my backpack, not Gertie. Gertie is my suitcase.
But yeah, it's not a hard read. So if you want to read it, despite what we've been saying and like how we didn't, or I didn't particularly care for it, how did you like the novel?
It was pretty good. I really just like his style. But I would say if you've read one Fitzgerald, you kind of read them all. So stick with Gatsby.
Definitely stick with Gatsby. I haven't read The Side of Paradise, so I can't, say anything to that.
It's just so iconic.
It is. It's so good.
On, boats against the current, ceaselessly into the past.
And if you like, I don't know if I want to read The Great Gatsby, if you're gonna go watch a movie, go watch the Leonardo DiCaprio version, because that one was amazing.
It was so good. People always say watch the older one, but
no,
there's no beating Leo.
There isn't, because it's.
He should have won an Oscar for that one.
He really should have, because it was so true to the novel while having just that jazzy feel.
Yeah. So when it first came out, there was the soundtrack is also pretty lit, by the way.
Oh yeah, so lit.
So there was a Beyonce song on the soundtrack, and it was in the movie, and people were like, "Why would you have this music there? It's anachronistic." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's lit." Like, it's a banger, and it fits the mood. And I feel like F. Scott Fitzgerald's like rolling in his grave, like, this is great. It was so good. They're like in a car on the highway, and it's like some like slowed down Beyonce Jay-Z thing, and you're like, yes, I feel it. And people are like dancing. It's very sensual. I was into it.
So yes, if you're gonna read or watch The Great Gatsby, read the novel, watch Leonardo DiCaprio. But
also, super gay vibes from Tobey Maguire, and I enjoy it. So.
Oh, so many. But that's Great Gatsby, and we are talking The Beautiful Damned, and I think we've covered it all.
Yep, we're done.
Before we get any further off topic. But I want to warn you guys that next week we won't have an episode, kind of like how we didn't have one the week before, but that was more because of a scheduling issue, and this one's because we're moving across the country. Mm-hmm. And so we won't actually be able to, like, meet up and, record this episode.
It's gonna be interesting.
At least we'll be in the same time zone, so we don't have to figure that out.
Yes. Wow, my heart, it's warm. So yeah, next time we talk, I'll be in Boston, living my best life.
And I'll be in Ohio.
Hopefully living your best life too.
But next week, we are doing the novel Six of Crows, which is another Tumblr book that neither of us have actually read this time.
It's the same girl who does the that one other series.
The Shadow and the Bone.
Yeah, which I did not like.
I didn't like it either. I don't remember why I didn't like it, but I remember I didn't like it. So I think after I finish Six of Crows and when I move, I'm going to pick it up and reread that novel, see if I like it. Well, if I like Six of Crows. If I don't like Six of Crows, then I'm just not liking that author.
Now I'm concerned because I really didn't like that one. I read it in the short-lived book club that I was part of. But also, I've yet to dislike a Tumblr book, so.
That is true. But we'll give you our full thoughts and opinions next week. So, for now, bye guys!